Let me ask you something. Have you ever sat through a presentation full of numbers, charts, and endless bullet points and realized minutes later you can't even remember a single thing? I know, that's my reaction. Of course you have. We all have. But why doesn't anything stick? Because facts inform and stories transform. Numbers fade quickly, but stories, they stick. They move us, they inspire us, they compel us to act. Today, I'm going to show you how you can take something as dry data and turn that into a vivid story that people will remember forever. But first, my name is Brian Fernandez. I am a speaker, coach, and I love storytelling. I believe the shortest distance between information and inspiration is through a powerful story. Let's get started. I'm going to first start with the classic management approach, which isn't bad by any standards. It's the problem, solution, benefit, call to action. Typically what's used in town halls or in presentations or when trying to persuade your audience. And then after that, I'm going to use the story format. If you want to skip this section, I suggest go to the chapters and skip to the story section. But I'd highly recommend listening through the problem, solution, benefit, call to action framework, because it will help you understand the contrast between what's the difference between just giving information versus putting it into a story framework. Over the past month, we've seen a 35% increase in our login failures in our online banking platform, which has impacted over 10,000 customers daily. This surge has led to a 20% increase in help desk calls, frustrating both our users as well as our support teams. If this trend continues, it could drive down customer satisfaction scores and increase operational costs. Our analysis have found out that 70% of these logins stem from an outdated two-factor authentication method. Now, by upgrading to the modern biometric authentication system, we can provide faster, more secure logins and reduce friction for our users. This change is expected to reduce login failures by 80%. Bravo, bravo! Oh my God, I got bored saying that. It's a Monday morning and Priya, a dedicated young professional, is urgently trying to transfer money for her mother's critical medical treatment. As her anxiety grows, the bank login screen repeatedly flashes, "Login failed, please try again." After 5 frustrating attempts, she's locked out. Now, desperate and worried, Priya calls the helpline, only to endure a long, agonizing wait. Arun, a call center advisor, picks up Priya's call, but Priya's frustration is just one among 1,000 he faces on a daily basis. About 10,000 customers experience similar login failures every single day, just like Priya. Arun empathizes deeply, but can only guide Priya through a lengthy, cumbersome password reset process. Inside, he knows it's not a permanent fix. So what's the real issue beneath these repeated login failures? An outdated two-factor authentication system causing 70% of login problems. Left unresolved, this doesn't just frustrate customers like Priya, it exhausts frontline staff like Arun, inflates operational costs, and erodes customer trust and threatens our competitive advantage in a rapidly evolving digital marketplace. But now imagine a different story. Priya logs into her bank account effortlessly with a simple facial scan or fingerprint. She swiftly transfers funds, relieved, reassured, and confident in her bank again. Meanwhile, Arun handles significantly fewer support calls, finally empowered to deliver meaningful service instead of endless password resets. Our analysis confirms that upgrading to biometric authentication can reduce login failures by 80%. Dramatically lowering the strain on operations as well as our costs. We're proposing to launch the biometric login in phases starting next month, boosting security, improving our user experience for customers like Priya, and rebuilding trust in our platform. Let's break down the story first with the context. This sets the scene and highlights what the problem is. Now, the problem. We open the story by immediately introducing a relatable character facing a pressing challenge. In this case, it's Priya, a dedicated professional urgently trying to transfer funds for her mother's medical treatment. Now, why this matters? We didn't start with numbers. Instead, we chose a scenario everyone could emotionally get connected to: urgency, frustration, anxiety, making the listener instantly care. How did we use data here? We subtly implied that this is a widespread issue. Initially, without overwhelming our audience with statistics, this repeated login failure Priya experiences aren't random. They are hinting at a larger systemic issue we'll soon reveal. Next, we get to the conflict. This is where we get to escalate the conflict and state what's at stake. So, we escalated the tension by highlighting the scale of the problem through Arun, who is the call center advisor in our story. Arun isn't just handling Priya's frustration, he's addressing a massive issue affecting 10,000 customers just like Priya daily. Why this matters? Now, by introducing Arun, we've also showed the ripple effect, turning Priya's personal frustration into a widespread operational challenge affecting employees of the company, the brand, and customer trust itself. So, how did we use data here? This is where we explicitly kind of wove in some critical data points. 10,000 customers facing login issues every single day. 70% of login failures caused because of an old, outdated two-factor authentication system. These numbers aren't just random. They underscore urgency, credibility, and reinforcing the problem scale and importance. Now, the most important question of this part is highlighting the consequences clearly, answering the question, what's at stake? We then articulated the deeper business impacts, that is exhausted staff, so we showed Arun, inflated operational costs, eroded customer trust, where we showed Priya, and compromised competitive advantage for the company. Now, this sets up for the final stage, the conclusion. The end, where we get to resolve the story, share a future vision, and have a concrete call to action. Finally, we painted a hopeful, appealing vision. Priya, effortlessly logging via biometric authentication. Arun, no longer bogged down by repetitive password resets. In fact, he's delivering meaningful customer service. Why this matters? This final step shifts from despair to optimism. We took the audience from frustration to possibility, clearly showing the transformation and benefits achievable through our solution. Here's how we use some data. Biometric authentication, the testing results proved that login failures would get reduced by 80%, directly addressing the root issue and significantly improving both the customer and employee experience. Now, this data does give credibility to the proposed solution, moving listeners from emotional engagement to also logical persuasion. So it's important again to weave emotion and information together. In summary, why this framework works. The storytelling approach works because it seamlessly integrates data and a human-centered narrative together. First, we engage the heart by Priya's urgent need. Then we engage the mind with Arun's systemic problem backed by data, 10,000 customers calling daily. And finally, we conclude with a data-backed resolution reinforcing the path forward. If you enjoyed this storytelling breakdown and want to learn more on how to transform dry data into stories that inspire action, subscribe to my channel or DM me today to join my next Storytelling with Data workshop.